Hello, my name's Tim. Welcome to Tim Burridge Reads. And today I'm going to talk to you doing a wrap up of what I read in August. So, August was a bit of a funny month. It always is for me because we go on our big summer holiday with the family. So, a lot of it is on Kindle, or I have to be quite flexible in what I'm reading. And I don't often get as much reading done. But I think I had a really good month. So, the first book I finished reading in August, was the sequel to 101 Dalmatians. Or it was 101 Dalmatians and The Starlight Barking. They were kind of one book. Um, I don't have a copy with me because I returned it to the library, but basically, 101 Dalmatians is great. Really good. Solid four-star read. I think Cruella de Vil is a great villain. The film kind of captures her essence very well. Like, they don't have to make her more villainous than they do in the book. The Starlight Barking is insane. I didn't enjoy it as much, even though it was quite funny just how insane it was. Everyone falls asleep. The dogs get psychic, telepathic powers. The dogs can fly. Sirius, the dog star, comes down from space and says, "Hey, I can take you all home to the dog star because all dogs are aliens, I think." And then the dogs decide to stay with humans and then lose all of their powers. And the little puppy who ends up being the Prime Minister of Britain. Just mental. I think read the first one, don't read the second one. Like, you don't, unless you want to enjoy the thrill ride of it. So I gave the whole thing, because it was like one book, so I gave the whole thing 3 stars. The next I read and took on holiday with me. There you go. There's my bookmark. The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. This is what if one day you could step, they call it, into a parallel Earth. And it was exactly the same, or it looked basically the same as this Earth, but there were small differences. Maybe a river ran a different path 1,000 years ago, or something like that. And what if you could step again and again and again? And it's about parallel Earths. I think this book is basically what if Terry Pratchett did Star Trek, because it's about exploring. That's the main narrative pull of the book, is just going to the next Earth and seeing what's there and reacting to what's there. It's about exploration. Strange new lives and new civilizations. I personally thought that was okay. I was on the journey with them and I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed more the bits back home on Datum Earth, as they called it, or seeing how we had settlers, looking at the world building side, where there's a guy and he goes to find like a gold ravine. He's like, "Oh, well, I can find the gold on this Earth," and he gets there and everyone else is there, and like gold is now valueless, and because we have unlimited resources. Basically, you could just go to another Earth where there will be that gold, which is, again, it's very Star Trek actually, and it's like, do we sociological aspects of, do we move more back towards hunter gathering? We don't need to do farming as much because there's not as many people. If people are running out of space, they could just go to a parallel Earth. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I it was missing the Terry Pratchett humor for me. There wasn't a ton of humor. There was, right at the start, you meet basically an AI that's proved it's a reincarnated human and it's currently living inside a vending machine. That's very Terry Pratchett, but otherwise it felt like Star Trek. It was about exploring. Then the ending did something I really didn't like. I'm interested, like, I gave this book 3 stars and the ending did drop it down because something just happens out of nowhere, and I don't know why they did it. I'm guessing for the next book, because this is one of 5 books. What does it say? Or is it at the back? They usually say at the back. Yeah. The Long War. Yeah, that makes sense. The startling new novel in the Long Earth sequence is one small step away. There we go, Pat. So, like, I'm definitely interested in reading the sequel because I want to know why they did the ending. Yeah. So, interesting. I think if you like Star Trek and like exploration, you'd really like this book. The next I read was my Jack London series on my Kindle. I read The Iron Heel. So this is I love the framing narrative. This is about the diary of someone found, like, hundreds of years in the past, and then it's set in like the early future for when it was written. I think it was published in 1908, and it's kind of from 1910 through to 1920 kind of time. And it's about mega corporations taking over and destroying the middle class and turning the and union busting and turning the lower working class into slave labor, and society completely falling apart as they all come under the iron heel. Wow, this was scary to read. This is dystopian fiction. He predicts that we almost go to war with Germany in 1913. It's pretty accurate, you know. We just did it a year later. One thing that's way off is the socialism in it. America doesn't have a great socialist party, which this book really pushes. And I think Jack London was a socialist. I think that's pretty obvious while you're reading it. Or certainly, if he's not, it came across that way because he was so proponent for the values of socialism, of coming together, of being a union, of you know, the power of labor and things like that. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The end was like quite ghastly in the complete fall down collapse of Law and Order. But a riveting read, a really riveting read. And reading it now, where you see uber billionaires paying less tax than school teachers, you know, all that kind of stuff. You could see this happening. It's happening now. As you see, we're kind of in the stages of late stage capitalism potentially collapsing. Like this really hits home. So I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then I read book 2 in the Magician series, the Rift War Saga. I read Silverthorn by Raymond D. Feist. This is a quest novel. You know, we follow mainly Prince Arutha, newly crowned Prince Arutha. Something happens and he needs to go somewhere to get the magic thing to solve the problem. And he does that. And it hits beats that are very familiar. I enjoyed the camaraderie between the team. Pug is off doing his own thing, which is interesting. And we see a little bit of that. I think Pug is going to be like very much a secondary character from now on. I don't know if Pug's going to come to the fore again because he's kind of done his hero's journey in a way. But Jimmy the Hand, who was a very small thief in the first book, becomes much more of a main character here. And he's kind of what we see, how we see Arutha. We kind of see it through Jimmy's perspective. I really enjoyed it. Really good romp, good fun. 4 stars. The prose is fine. It does exactly what it means to do. It's a quest novel, and it's good at that. Then I was my mystery book when we got. So I was reading those while we were on holiday. Then when we got back, I read Mary Poppins in a day. This is by P.L. Travers. It's 12 chapters, I want to say. Yeah, 12 chapters, and each chapter is basically a completely separate story of Mary Poppins taking the kids, or not, on an adventure. So we see bits from the films. I think the films take stuff from other Mary Poppins books as well, but we see them have tea on the ceiling with someone who laughs too much. We go into the drawings with the carousel. We see the bird woman, 2p a bag, feed the birds. We also see stuff that's not in. So there's just a story of a dancing cow that goes to the king. I didn't enjoy this very much. I think the thing is one, the film is cinema magic. It really is magic on screen. And I think it doesn't quite come across here. I think partially because I feel like we don't get enough of the kids' perspective in this. As in it's obviously written by an adult. And one thing they do in the film a bit, but Mary Poppins really loves herself. So in almost every chapter, she stops and looks at herself in a reflection and gets distracted by what she's wearing, and that happens a lot. And then also you have the bit where, you know, the kids go on a magical adventure and they go, "Oh, wasn't that magic?" And Mary Poppins is like, "Oh, that never happened." And like, I feel like the wink, you know, she never actually winks, but it's like a code between the two of them. between her and the kids and the audience of being like, oh no, of course that possibly couldn't happen, but we all saw it did happen. That doesn't happen in this. She just tells them it didn't happen. She just gaslights them and tells them that that magical thing that they did not happen. And I didn't like reading that. I also think I am a bit jarred by, I've seen Saving Mr. Banks. I know P.L. Travers was, let's say, an interesting woman. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, I gave this 2 stars. I'm pleased that I've read it, but I just think the film is just better. I'm sorry, P.L. Travers, but the film is better. And then while I was in Japan and Hong Kong and China, I was kind of reading my Kindle, and I finished Silverthorn, and I went, I know, I'm going to read the book, which was like the fabled stories of Japan by some old English guy in the 1890s. I had that on my Kindle, and I went to download it. I went to click on it, and it went, you haven't downloaded this yet. You've just bought it. And I thought, I don't have any internet. So what can I read? And I had book 3 in the Rift War Saga, A Darkness at Sethenon. So I finished the Rift War Saga. This is 3 books, sometimes it's 4 books. There's also the Rift War Cycle, which is like 30 books, but I finished the first trilogy. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, it was kind of hit all the beats that you're expecting it. I technically finished it on September the 1st, but I'll put it in the August wrap-up. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought towards the end, it was definitely, especially with Pug and Thomas and what they were doing, it was, oh no, you need to go do this thing, and I haven't explained it in these 3 books yet. So let me just stop and talk to you for 30 pages telling you about this thing, about this big info dump. And it was like, okay. Then we get to the next bit, and I was like, oh, now you need to do this. And here was another big info dump. And it got very info dumpy at the end. Trying to explain the stuff they have to do, like, right before they do it. And it's like, that could have been fed way earlier. I also thought the climax was kind of okay. Not great. So I was like, oh, this is leaning towards 3 stars for me. I think it's one of the weakest. I think it's the weakest of the 3. But then there's a city called Armengar, and it has a battle, which does take a long time in the book. A battle and a siege. And imagine Helm's Deep and the Battle of Blackwater Bay combined. And that's this. And it was incredible to read. Incredible. So I think with that, that bumps it back up to a 4. But I would say I think it is, in terms of my enjoyment of the trilogy, I'd recommend it. I think it's good fun. Do I think it's the best thing since sliced bread? No. It hasn't hit any of those heights. You've got Magician, which I think was incredibly ambitious and mental, and I had no idea what anything was happening quite a lot of the time. I was like, okay, cool, this is your main character. Nope, okay, fair enough. And then there's big time jumps, and it's kind of very bizarre in a way, but I enjoyed that. Then you've got a dark Silverthorn, which is very classic quest fantasy, and I think it does a pretty good job. And then you've got A Darkness at Sethenon, which Armengar is just brilliant. The rest of the book is okay. The fact that you only hear about Sethenon, like, with, I don't know, over halfway through the book, and and it's in the title of the book, like, feels very like, oh, well, we need to do this thing, oh, and that's also this, yeah, so that, I would say that's definitely the weakest of the trilogy. But yeah, there we go. That's what I read in August. A pretty good month. No 5-star books. I'd say that probably my favourite book was The Iron Heel, I think. And the worst book would be Mary Poppins. But, you get some, you win some, you lose some. Anyway, if you've read any of those books, let me know, especially the Magician stuff, the Rift War Saga by Raymond E. Feist. It's a very popular series, but I don't hear people really talking about it that much online. So let me know in the comments below. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my stuff. And anyway, I'll see you soon. Now get out of my house!